Take it away.
All right, one day, David was out in the field, and he was there taking care of the sheep, and he was sitting there listening to the lowing.
It's all part of the show. It's all part of the show.
There was an avalanche on the side. Avalanche. That was just for fun.
Avalanche!
There were no words. So he was taking care of the sheep, and he was sat there, and it was a calm day, and he listened to the lowing of the sheep. They were kind of sickly.
I am!
And so David was sitting listening to the sheep, and all of a sudden, he heard off in the distance the cry of his father, but he couldn't even understand it. It was just And so David, he heard the voice of his father, and he took up running towards the house. He was really, really out of shape. And you could hear David's footsteps as he ran to the house.
Oh, I don't know.
No, you could hear his footsteps. All right, there we go. And David got to his father, and he said, "Yes, father." And his father said, "David, I want you to go down and make sure your brothers are doing okay. And take this satchel of cheese over to him." So David grabbed it, and he threw it over his shoulder, and it sounded like this as it hit his side. Clunk.
That's not a lot of cheese in that sack.
It wasn't from Wisconsin.
Meanwhile, in the Philistine camp, the great champion Goliath was just getting up in the morning, and as he got up out of bed, he let out a big stretch, and then he yawned. Reached up and started scratching his hair. Then he realized he had lice, and he was like, "Ooh." Anyway, so Goliath continued on with his morning routine. He walked over to his dumbbells, and he started working out. And the dumbbells clanged as he picked them up. Ding! These dumbbells were really like 5 pounds.
He's toning up.
He's toning up. So he started working out with them. Oh, yeah. Sound effects. And the dumbbells would clang as he would work out. Meanwhile, David... He was having a heart attack.
David was so tired from running, he couldn't even stand. David took off toward the Philistine camp, and he started running, and his footsteps were in sync with the actual steps of his feet. And he stopped, he took a breather, and he got running again. And he ran all the way to the camp, and he heard the cries of the men at the battlefield, and they were like, that must have been the medic tent. And so we hear the manly roar of the battlefield off in the distance. And David looked out and he saw the giant. And he saw that no one would go and fight the giant. He said, "Is anybody going to fight this giant?" And his brothers looked at him like... And he said, "I'll go fight the giant." And they said, "You got to go see the king." So David ran to the king. And he got to the king and he said, "Oh, king, I will go and I will fight the giant." And the king was like, "You've got to put my armor on." So they brought out the armor. And it was a big, heavy sack. And he rigged it up. And he carried it over. And it was clanging as he walked. It was clanging. It was clanging.
Clank, clank, clank.
And he threw it down in a big bang.
Bang!
David began to put on the armor. Put on one piece. And it clanged again.
Oh, my heart! Oh, too much. Too much.
And another piece. Another piece.
Clank, 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 clank.
And he tried to walk in the armor, and it was just clanging all over the place. Like,
Clunk, 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 clunk.
and David said, "This isn't going to work." That's what I'm thinking. And so he threw all the armor off into a big pile. One piece.
Boing!
Another piece.
Clang!
Another piece. And finally the moment.
Kerplunk!
David said, "I'm going to go fight him without the armor." So David ran down to the brook, and he listened to the gurgling of the brook. And he reached down into the water and grabbed a stone and pulled it out and put it in his pouch. And he said, what does water sound like? He reached into the brook again and pulled it out. He put it in his pouch. And he pushed it again. And again. And another one.
Meanwhile, back in the Philistine camp, Goliath was outfitting himself with armor too. And he called to his armor bearer with a loud yell. And his armor bearer came running over. He was a rat-faced boy. The armor bearer grabbed the shield of Goliath, but it was so heavy that he grunted when he picked it up. Walked over to Goliath with it, and he stretched even further when he handed it to him. Goliath took the shield, and then he drew the sword from its sheath. And he started... Sound like a popsicle stick. And so he started swirling his sword around in the air. Then he hoisted it up in the air and he yelled, "Ah!" Goliath had a weird voice, okay, kids? Anyway, meanwhile, David
had his whole pouch full of stones. And as he ran, they clanged together.
Clunk, 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 clunk.
And he ran over, and he looked over, and he saw the giant. And he said, Goliath, you rotten scoundrel! This is the Message version. This is not the, And he said, Goliath,
just keep going, bro.
you rotten scoundrel! You defied the armies of the Lord, and you're going down. So he reached into his pouch, and he wrestled around. He was not eating a Slurpee. I want to clarify that. He wrestled around the stones, and he found a smooth one. They were all smooth. And he pulled it out of his pouch, and he put it in his sling, and he began to sling his swing. We started out slow.
I tried.
Are we covered? Do we have insurance? Alright. And he started out slow. And he got faster. And he let it fly through the air.
And as it flew through the air, it made a very big impact sound as it smote Goliath on the forehead.
Wow!
And Goliath screamed as he fell to the ground. Oh! Goliath screamed as he fell to the ground, not David.
And David ran over to Goliath. And he stopped. And he picked up his sword and he drew it out of the sheath. And it was a really long sword. It was a really long sword. I want to clarify that. It was like the Slurpee's back. The Slurpee's back. And he took the sword. It was so heavy he could barely lift it. He was like... And he got it up in the air. And he lowered it down over Goliath's head like this.
And Goliath gasped as the sword struck him. Alright, go ahead. Alright, so we're going to do for that side. For both sides, because we had such good sound effects today. 5,000 points for the girls and 5,000 points for the guys.